Our coffee break. Our topic today is how Windows 11 will impact your business cloud strategy. And joining me today is Paul Hager. Paul, I'm really glad to have you today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Ellie.
So for those of you who don't know, Paul is our Director of Solutions at Elevity, and his role is to know and understand what's next for business technology, which is why we're happy to have him for a Windows 11 chat today. Our topic today is centered all around the business impact of Microsoft's Windows 11 rollout and other news from Microsoft that will affect you this year. So during our last coffee break, we talked about the inner workings of Windows 11, what it looks like, what has changed in this version, and what users should know before they install it. But today we're going to talk about the impact of this rollout, some additional security considerations, and then budgeting for Microsoft in the coming year. So as always, we have a chat feature within Zoom. You're welcome to send us questions live. And then at the end of our session, we'll be giving you the link to claim your $5 Starbucks gift card. So thank you again for joining us, and let's get started on our questions. So Paul, insiders are calling Windows 11 the on-ramp to the Microsoft cloud. Can you break down what this means and what other factors have contributed to Microsoft taking this cloud-first approach as we lead into 2022?
Yeah, Microsoft's made it really clear that, I think with the launch of Windows Virtual Desktop, rebranding it Azure Virtual Desktop, the amount of innovation that they put into that platform, that they want to involve the cloud more in the end user experience. And they see that as a response to the market demand for more hybrid workforce, work from home. People are computing from more devices in more places than ever before. And certainly the pandemic kind of kicked that whole work from home thing in the butt. And there's a shift. There was a shift at one point to over 77% work from home time, and not all of that is coming back to the office. And so Microsoft needs to be ahead of the technology curve to support those folks. And Windows 11, not only is it Azure Virtual Desktop ready, meaning that you can run Windows 11 in the cloud right now today, but they've also started to build in and start to build into the operating system some reliance on the cloud in order to deliver some of its security features. So, we just live in a connected world. And so I think when they talk about Windows 11 being ready for that, they're talking for the cloud in particular. They're thinking about things like Project Pluton, Pluton, is this concept of taking that TPM, or the Trusted Platform Module, and bringing that into the cloud and making that not just on chip, but baked into the CPU, which is a lot of technical terms. So I'll try to break that down a little bit. TPM, or Trusted Platform Module, is an additional tiny processor that's been put into most machines in the last 5 to 7 years. And the TPM chip's primary job is cryptography. It's to provide encryption keys to secure the layer that exists between the machine's firmware, which is the software that literally lives inside the hardware, like the software that you install on the motherboard itself, or the component level, and the software meaning like the operating system and the software. So we, in order to stay ahead of where the bad guys are investing, we need security at every single layer. And that means at the hardware level. So as it's coming off of manufacturing lines, it's not been messed with. When the operating system gets installed, that the operating system is protected, and at the application layer, that the application is being protected. And now with the cloud, and being able to make the safe assumption that a machine should be able to be online and communicate with cloud brokerage, Microsoft's looking at using things like MAA, or Microsoft Azure Attestation, more acronyms that Microsoft's inventing. It's so much fun, as a way to use the cloud to say, should this thing run? Is it trusted? Is it the valid and original code that was meant to be on this piece of hardware, in this firmware, in this operating system, or running as this application? So these are all just ways for Microsoft to try to check and verify trust, leveraging the cloud, all leading to greater security. That is their focus. Their focus is work from home, making the operating system available from anywhere in the world, whether that be in Azure, or using local virtualization, and then security, trying to really secure that platform into the future and stay ahead of where the bad guys are leveraging Windows against itself for ransomware and things like that.
Perfect. So when we hear that buzzword zero trust, is that what they mean, Microsoft, when they talk about zero trust?
Yep, it wouldn't be a good security webinar, Ellie, unless we said the words zero trust in it. So now zero trust. There we go. We have done all the buzzwords. So what is that? Yeah, what does that mean, right? And for our customers, what does the buzzword mean, and what is the reality? So the buzzword zero trust means that it's an understanding that we need to be more identity centric in our view of security, right? That ultimately what the bad guys want is an identity. They want to be logged in as a user that they shouldn't be. Because when you're logged in as a user that you shouldn't be, you now get access to a lot of stuff. And since the dawn of Windows, one of the beautiful things was that you can walk up to any Windows machine in your domain and log in as a domain user and get into that machine and maybe even get access to a network share, printers, and all these great resources. And for 20 years, we've helped small businesses and large deploy these kinds of networks that establish based on who you log in as. When you log in as Ellie.Sherven or Shervan, I think there's still an A in your last name somewhere in some system, accidentally. But when you log in like that you are automatically trusted to connect to a server, connect to a Windows domain, connect to an entire file share, to often connect to an entire drive of files, even though to do your job in a year, think of how many actual files you've needed to open. Maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's 1,000 files unique files that you need to open in your job. But think of how many you have access to. If you still have an S drive, a T drive, a J drive, whatever cool name your office has given it to you, even if you access a lot of files a day, you probably have access to 100,000 files in that share. And do you need that access? And so what zero trust says is, let's start with every identity every time it logs in with the least amount of stuff and access that it needs. And only kind of on a permissions and sometimes using behavior-based technology, meaning normally Sally Sue logs in, Sally Sue opens Outlook, Sally Sue accesses 5 files. We're going to keep the zone of trust close to her as she's going through each of those rings. The other thing that we talk about with zero trust is VPNs. So the other thing we've done in the last 20 years for security and convenience that maybe we're rethinking in the technology space is this VPN concept. So VPN is a virtual private network. It's something that typically connects to your firewall and allows you, when you're working remotely, to connect back to resources at the office. Again, just think about that though. One login to your firewall, and the beauty is your machine now acts like it's back at the office. But the danger is your machine now acts like it's back at the office, and it has access to everything on that network. Every printer, every IP address, every server, every other computer in the network. We just, have gone for the convenience, and the VPN is secure, right? It is tunneling and SSL encrypting the communication now between your device at home or on the road back to your office. But the breadth of what you have access to in that moment is often arguably very, very wide. Your computer doesn't really need to probably talk to other computers back at the office. It only needs the files it needs from the server or the application that you VPN'd into in order to run. And so zero trust says, let's continue to pull the rings of what you need access to down to the lowest common denominator. That way, when the bad guys, not if, but when the bad guys compromise a user identity, their reach can't get lateral. They can't now abuse that single credential and get really wide within the network and attack everything. They'd only be able to attack what that one user has access to. And if we're using neat technology, maybe even those rings will identify that Sally Sue does not normally attempt to access 50,000 files all at once. So that's a violation of her normal zero trust pattern, and let's take action against that. So Windows, tying this back to our Windows 11 conversation, Windows 11 includes an out-of-the-box zero trust technology that they have invented that is new called MAA, or Microsoft Azure Attestation, which is brand new, which means it hasn't been widely adopted yet. But basically what it is that software developers now can go to Microsoft Azure, provide a unique key that says that when you see my software, Bob's Legal ERP software, when you see Bob's Legal ERP software run, have it go check the Microsoft Azure Attestation site in the cloud and verify that the code of what's in this software is the same code and key that is expected when the software runs. And so by requiring this check-in and this level of trust that this is the correct application, we can now differentiate between valid software written by good guys to do good business things and evil software pretending to be good software that will never have the associated Azure Attestation key coming from Microsoft's cloud. And so that is now baked into Windows 11. Now, just because you install Windows 11 does not suddenly make everything instantly necessarily more secure, because people have to invest, programmers have to have time to leverage some of these new technologies that Microsoft has baked into Windows 11.
Wonderful. So another trend that we're hearing on top of Zero Trust is going passwordless. And I know that Microsoft has really jumped on this. Can you tell us what within Microsoft is passwordless and what does it mean to go passwordless as a whole?
Yeah, I think this hits on just what is, I think, a little bit fundamentally different about Windows 11 than other Windows operating systems. And like all Windows operating systems, it requires more hardware, right? You have to be on a current generation of processor, or maybe one or two behind before you're going to be ready. You're going to need to have a trusted platform module 2.0 chip or greater. So there's going to be a group of hardware that you have maybe in your environment today that wouldn't qualify for Windows 11. And a big part of that is the base requirements for some of the new security features that are inside of it. First and foremost, what an important distinction to understand is that they're moving these requirements forward in hardware because Windows 11 essentially runs your operating system as a virtual machine. So for years and years, we've been doing virtual machines in your data center. So we have one server, maybe in your server room, or two or three. And then we virtualize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 50, 100, 150,000 virtual machines on top of those physical hosts. Your Windows 11 machine becomes like a little Windows Hyper-V server in a way, and you'll never notice it. You don't see it, you don't feel it, but the reality is Windows 11 is running as a virtual machine floating over itself on your same hardware. And what that allows Microsoft to do by moving your hardware requirements forward and running Windows 11 with that is they can start using some of these new virtual-based security technologies like kernel data protection. So again, the kernel is this critical part of Windows where drivers and critical operating system components of Windows live. And by having it be a virtual machine, Windows can detect and protect the real kernel that's installed on the hardware from the virtual version of it running in your Windows 11 virtual machine. So as they can do some more memory integrity monitoring, their acronym for this is HVCI, which again allows stronger protection against viruses and malware going into your virtual or into your memory, where a lot of viruses like to go and hang out and then cause real problems. And then this is where the passwordless piece comes in, because Windows Hello enhanced sign-in allows that virtual machine to only boot or log in, or essentially give you unencrypted access to the operating system that's otherwise encrypted when you use a camera with a trusted platform module chip that is seeing your face and doing a facial recognition login to that virtual machine that is Windows 11. So again, you would approach a Windows 11 machine and it would look like Windows 10, like you wouldn't notice it being a virtual machine. But these are kind of the underlying techie pieces to it that are allowing these advancements forward in security. And so when Microsoft talks about a truly passwordless experience, they do mean that mostly for Windows home users. So when you buy a Windows 11 home machine, there won't be an option to just set an insecure password to get into your machine. It's going to have a more Apple-like experience, or an iPhone-like experience where you have to give it a fingerprint, let it do the facial recognition login, something like that. They're going to move away from even offering passwords as an option to get into those Windows home machines. And that, again, is going to, because it's then a virtualized version of Windows 11, not being able to authenticate with a password, it's another step forward in security where bad guys can't just get a single star password, one password, and start running amok inside of your machine. So, Windows 11's got some magic in it. They are moving the platform forward to be more cloud friendly, to leverage the cloud for security, because Microsoft knows that security is a big critical threat. But I will say that while you might be sitting there going, wow, it sounds like a lot of new technology, and all of that seems like big steps forward that would really prevent the bad guys from ever doing anything. Well, let's all move to Windows 11 right now. I would say, first of all, the good guys have to have time to adjust their software to leverage these new security tools of Windows 11. It just came out. They got a software SDK version of it a few months earlier than that, but we still need print drivers. We still need drivers capable of, using the virtual kernel versions of what security is in Windows 11. We need your current ERP software, your law software to support Windows 11 and its features. And once we're on the side of all of that, unfortunately, at the same time, these multi-billion-dollar crime syndicates are finding the ways that they're still going to try to get into your machines and still break down each of these tools. It's just a constant chase in the security space. These are great steps forward by Microsoft, but they will absolutely get answered by threat actors, and they will find ways to continue to leverage it. And, with every new advancement, we need to really trust that this software is being developed really well, and we won't find ourselves with some new variant of ransomware that gets at the hypervisor version of Windows 11 and encrypts the whole hypervisor itself. So there's just always going to be a little bit of cat and mouse in this space, but it's good to see Windows and Microsoft overall focusing on cloud and focusing on security, because that's absolutely what we see our customers needing to leverage more of. And so it's good to see them respond in the right ways.
Wonderful. So I just want to send out a quick reminder, if you do have a question that you would like answered live, please use the Q&A feature within Zoom. We're open to taking questions on the fly here. I do have one more question for Paul. With the holidays approaching and the end of the year being just on the horizon, we're headed into budgeting time for many who run on a calendar fiscal year. What should people be anticipating and budgeting for in the coming year as it relates to their technology and their Microsoft licensing?
Yeah, to keep it close to Windows 11, if you have a Microsoft 365, the right Microsoft 365 level of SKUs, their M365 Business Premium, you have the rights to install the latest version of Windows 10 Enterprise, or now Windows 11 Enterprise. So continuing to consume these bundles from Microsoft in their Office 365 system, that's subscription model is where Microsoft is going. And making sure that you can leverage these new security features and these new operating systems as they come out, making sure you have the licensing that entitles you to that. I think just waiting for your devices to come with the sticker on it for it is first of all not the way Microsoft wants people to transact. They want you to get in a recurring model, and I know that frustrates some IT managers on this call, but it's also so that you can benefit from the new technology when it is available. We're still recommending people hold off on Windows 11 broad installation. You should be testing it. You should maybe have it on one computer in the corner and continuing to validate print drivers and your software to get a sense of when you may be ready for this technology. But it's still pretty early. I think this is a calendar Q1 to really start diving into testing Windows 11 even more and giving those developers time. But on that topic of budgeting and Office 365, I know this is a little off from Windows 11, but if you didn't get a chance to catch our webinar on the new commerce experience changes coming from Microsoft, I highly recommend that you reach out to us for a copy of that webinar, or you talk to your representative here at Elevity about the changes coming from Microsoft when it comes to budgeting for Microsoft software into the future. So a couple of big changes One, Microsoft open licenses are dead as of the end of this calendar year. You cannot buy an open business license anymore after 12/31 of 2021. Open business was a perpetual licensing model where we would quote customers and you would get a volume license authorization number, go into the BLSC site, be able to download and use that key for that version of that software. And then you would pay for software insurance or not pay for software insurance about whether you would get any updates to that software, but you would own it on a perpetual basis. Microsoft is getting rid of that open business model. We can't sell that to you. It doesn't exist. No one will be able to sell it to you after December of this year. So the models that you can still get perpetual software are through the same CSP motion that you get your Office 365 licensing from us. So we can still sell you a perpetual license to Windows Server, Windows Data Center, SQL, user CALs, remote desktop CALs. We just have to do it through the CSP portal instead of a volume licensing site. Or you can rent it and then you get the latest, you get software assurance, you get all of that, and we can also rent it to you via the CSP model, just like you're getting Office 365. You can get your on-premise licensing that way now as well. Or open value is still around. I know the open business and open value sound very much similar, but open value is a 3-year commitment to Microsoft. You pay annually once a year, and you get software assurance during the pendency of that agreement for all 3 years. So if new versions come out, you get the rights to those new versions throughout your rental period of open value, and that model is still available. That new commerce experience, again, we talked about that in the webinar. So there is a price increase coming in March for about 5 of the most popular Office 365 SKUs. You can Google Office 365 March price increase, and Microsoft's got a blog post about those 5 products that are going up. And they're going up, anywhere from 15 to 30% for each of the 5 SKUs that they highlight. And then starting in March as well, all Office 365 recurring licenses are going up by 20% if you want to stay buying them on a month-to-month basis, where you can go up and down in price or quantity every single month. Microsoft's saying, you don't have a commitment to us, so we can't give a price commitment to you. And if you want to still consume in that variable way, there's going to be an increased cost to that. You can avoid both of those price increases if your organization reaches out to a CSP like us, and we go to Microsoft together and we lock in your Office 365 licensing for 12 or 36 months. If we do that, it's called an NCE agreement or a new commerce agreement for 12 months or a new commerce agreement for 36. You will avoid all those price increases. Your price will be locked for that 12 or 36 months. You can increase the number of licenses you buy. So if over the course of that 36 months, you need to go from 10 users to 20 or 20 to 21 to 22, you'll get honored with the original pricing that you locked in, and it won't extend your contract date. So if you signed an NCE agreement with us and Microsoft January 1 of 2022, that will always be your renewal date for your NCE agreement. And as you add users throughout the year, it doesn't push that date out further. But it does mean that becomes your new minimum. So at 20, you add to 21 licenses. Now 21 is your new minimum, and you can't go backwards. There is 0 cancellation options, and that's coming from Microsoft. That's not a levity choice. That's a Microsoft saying, we'll give you the benefit of the better pricing, but you can't decrease your usage of licenses. You can reassign those to new people if people leave the organization, but you have to maintain buying those. You can mix and match. So you could buy 20 licenses in a 36-month NCE at the lowest price point that's available today, and then add, if you have summer help, add 5 of those in the month-to-month NCE. Those will be probably 20% more expensive, but you can turn them on and turn them off without penalty. It's moving into that model. I think a lot of our clients, as we've announced this, have reached out to us and just said, we don't have in the budget a 20% increase across all of our Office 365 licenses. Let's go ahead and lock in for 12 or 36 months. We'll budget for those increases a little bit down the road. And so we're just helping people get through that because it is time sensitive. If you haven't selected one of those options by March of next year, based on your renewal time period with Microsoft, you might get kicked into a more expensive bracket without you knowing. We just would hate to have that happen to people and be a surprise. So that's the Microsoft budget tidbit here as we head off into the holiday week, is have a conversation with us about where your Office 365 licensing is today, what features you're using, what features do you want to use, and then probably if you don't see yourself moving off of the cloud anytime soon or changing your email provider, probably makes sense to have a conversation around whether 12 or 36 months is the right fit, so that you don't take on any of those price increases.
Perfect. Yeah, certainly a lot to think about as it relates to the Microsoft offering and your cloud approach. So we are bumping up on the portion of our webinar. And so I just want to throw it out there. We have announced all of our December coffee breaks, and I would love to encourage you to go out and register for these. As a reminder, we're moving away from Zoom and moving our coffee breaks onto Microsoft Teams webinars. So the registration process will look the same. You'll still complete the form, but it will just be a different experience from a calendar invite standpoint. So please register for our December coffee breaks. These will all be around what's next for technology and how to plan for the coming year. And then in January, Paul will have your tech predictions for what's coming in technology in the coming year and what businesses should be considering. So that's always one of my favorite topics. So with that, please take a moment to scan with your phone, your camera app. Here's our coffee card claim. Thank you again for all of those who have joined us and spent some time with us. We really enjoy putting on these events and enjoy having questions and thoughtful input from our guests. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us this Friday morning. And Paul, thank you for taking some time with us.
Yeah, of course. Hope everybody has a safe and lovely holiday next week. So enjoy time with friends and family, whoever you gather with, and really enjoy the next week. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you all for being Elevity clients, and hope you have a great weekend.